What's up, Lake Norman? Matt Chapman here, bringing you another episode of Active Life Around the Lake. And today we're coming to you here from the Caldwell Station Creek Greenway, which is one of several greenways around town that make up the Emerald Necklace. And I'm here today with Cornelius Parks and Recreation Director Troy Fitzsimmons, who is kind of the godfather of the Emerald Necklace here in town, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about what all is involved. And so, Troy, let's kind of start with the basics.
Okay.
What is the Emerald Necklace, and kind of what's the vision for it once it's completely built out?
Okay. So first off, Matt, thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. And never quite got the Godfather compliment, but that's a new one to me. But the Emerald Necklace is a vision for a 13-plus mile loop trail that goes all around the town of Cornelius. And it also goes into Davidson and Huntersville as well. It came out of our 2015 Comprehensive Parks and Greenways Master Plan. Now, some of the pieces were already done in 2015, but then what we did was we simply made strategic connections to some of those existing sections. So far to date, we have about 11.2 miles of trail that is done for the Emerald Necklace, making it 83% complete with 3 major sections left to go.
Awesome. All right, so a little over a decade in the works, and here we are, kind of almost got the full loop complete. You mentioned those 3 sections that are kind of still left to complete the loop. What are those sections, and kind of what kind of timeline are we looking at?
Sure, I'll be glad to answer that. So the 3 sections include the connection between Caldwell Station Creek Greenway and McDowell Creek Greenway. So unfortunately, we have the Great Divide that is I-77 in between, but the plans and design are done, and we're just waiting on NCDOT to build a section related to the Highway 73 road widening. With that plan, they will make multi-use path connections, which in essence are greenways parallel with existing roadways. To make that strategic connection, the next section going north on McDowell Creek out to Catawba Avenue and then down Jeton Road Extension, pretty much all that is in place. And so the next connection is from the end of Sefton Road along Liverpool Parkway to exit 28 and the diverging diamond. And then finally, the last section is on the eastern side of the diverging diamond, from that area all the way to downtown Cornelius, where they connect with the Antiquity Greenway in downtown. So a little more than 2 miles left to go overall, and funding is in place for 2 out of 3 of the sections. The one section not funded is the downtown section from the DDI to Antiquity, but great news. As part of the federal budget process, Representative Tim Moore was able to get us $1 million earmarked in the budget, which will allow us to advance design as well as secure easements for that section. And then we just need construction funding. So my hope is that we're done in less than a decade on the rest of it overall.
And you mentioned sort of the different types of trails involved. Obviously, there's traditional greenway type paths, and then you also talked about the multi-use paths that kind of run along the roadways.
Yeah.
So expound a little bit more on that, and then also talk about some of the connections in terms of parks, in terms of town, just different places you can get to just from these greenways that surround the town.
Sure. So greenways, much like you see behind me here, they go through forested land or through farm field area, 10-foot wide, paved pathway, all accessible in accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Multi-use paths, again, they're much like greenways, they're 10 feet wide. However, you could also think of them like a glorified sidewalk. It's a double wide sidewalk. And what that does is that allows people walking or bicycling to be able to safely pass each other as they come across each other overall. And then you had mentioned about connections to parks and everything. So if you go online to cornelius.org and click on our department, you can find more information about the Emerald Necklace. But the vision was to connect people where people live to where they work, congregate, and recreate. So the recreate piece, many of our greenways connect with our existing parks and or recreation centers, or they're a very short walk off of those greenways or multi-use paths to get to. And again, you can find more information at cornelius.org and click on our webpage for parks and recreation.
Awesome. And we'll include the link to that down below in the description for the video. Troy, my last question for you, kind of a two-part question. Do you have a favorite trail that's part of the Emerald Necklace? And also, do you have a favorite spot along one of those trails that you like to stop and just kind of take in the scenery?
I love it all, is the bottom line. However, I will say that the place where people tend to gravitate to is the Antiquity Greenway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little over a half mile altogether in downtown Cornelius, just across the railroad tracks in Antiquity. There's an elevated boardwalk, so imagine walking while looking straight into the canopies of trees for about 100 feet or so. Then it goes down to regular grade, and then you come across a covered bridge. Those are very unique. It's the only one I can think of in the area here. And folks love to stop there, get pictures taken for graduations, proms, weddings, things like that. So very short walk, you can get some really nice scenery in there. And then when you're done, if you're hungry or thirsty, there's plenty of places to stop at a restaurant or a bar.
There you have it, folks. Troy, a big thank you for your time today.
You're
and
welcome. Thanks for having
sharing
me.
with everybody about the Emerald Necklace. Folks, get out here and check it out. A lot of beautiful scenery, beautiful trails. The weather for it's a little warm today, but it's pretty nice outside. And so get outside and enjoy the greenways, enjoy the parks this summer. Troy Fitzsimmons, Cornelius Parks and Recreation Director. I'm Matt Chapman. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of Active Life Around the Lake, produced by LKN Connect. And make sure you tune in down the line for the next episode.